St. Petersburg, and Novosibirsk are the largest cities. Each September, the first lesson of the Russian school year traditionally begins with a talk about our motherland and its space one can't embrace. Vast open plains cover most of the territory: the Eastern European, Russian plain, the Mid-Siberian plateau, and the Central Yakut plain. It is an 8-hour flight from Moscow to the other end of the country, the Pacific coastal city of Vladivostok. There is a strong connection between physical geography and the geography of soul, a correlation between the boundlessness of the Russian lands and the Russian spirit. Russian people have in their souls enormous spaces, the boundless eternity of the Russian plains, wrote the philosopher Nikolai Berdyaev. He has a wide soul, Russians often say about somebody sympathetic and supportive. The enormous Russian spaces have another effect. Visitors cannot but notice that everything is done on a large scale, from architecture to drinking. People you meet when they open up to you are larger than life, both in joy and in anger. Russia has been blessed with bountiful resources. It has a quarter of the world's mineral resources, from oil, gas, gold and diamonds to non-ferrous metals and timber. But the obstacles of a harsh climate, great distances, and a lack of human resources have hindered its development. Add to this the permafrost that covers half the landmass, leaving only 8% of the land arable, active volcanoes in the Kuril Islands, spring floods and summer forest fires throughout Siberia, and earthquakes on the Kamchatka Peninsula, and that bounty may not appear to be quite the blessing it first seemed. Climate. Russia encompasses all climate zones except the tropical. Most of the country has a harsh continental climate, with a dramatic difference between summer and winter temperatures. The village of Omiakon in the autonomous Sakha Republic, for example, is one of the world's coldest places, with an average winter temperature of minus 56.6 Fahrenheit. A monument there marks the day it fell to minus 96.16 degrees Fahrenheit. However, any Muscovite will tell you that the capital's winters have been getting increasingly warmer for the last decade. Russia is by no means immune to global warming. You might think it's chilly outside, but of course you don't realize how lucky you are. You should have been here 20 years ago. That was a real winter. Southern Russia has a subtropical climate, where year-round temperatures remain above 46 degrees Fahrenheit, and summer temperatures range between 79 degrees and 90 degrees Fahrenheit, though occasional extreme heat waves might exceed 122 degrees Fahrenheit. If freezing Moscow or damp, windy St. Petersburg get too much for you in the winter, the city of Sochi is a short flight away and promises more comfortable temperatures. Winter in Russia lasts much longer than in Europe. Visitors shouldn't expect a February or March thaw. Snowfall and freezing temperatures can last well into April and even extend into May. There are only 3 or 4 summer months in which concentrated agricultural labour is possible. This may explain the characteristic Russian Shturmovshchina, short bursts of extremely intense work. Short harvest periods and unpredictable weather can lead to a risk-taking in sowing and planting, na avos, a what-if approach, hoping for a good outcome. And besides, if the harvest fails, one can always go fishing. This attitude may go some way to explaining the resilience that is part of the Russian character. The ability to bounce back after losing everything, after forceful relocation due to the whims of politicians, or after economic crises. It also explains the extremely hard work that Russians tend to put in at their dacha holiday homes. No sitting around and enjoying the sunny weather here. The summer months are spent growing fruits and vegetables that can be preserved and pickled for the cold winter months. Many Russians relied on these food stores when shortages were rife in the Soviet Union, and the tradition continues to this day. Russian waters. Russia's 120,000 rivers stretch for 1,864,114 miles. 2 million fresh and saltwater lakes are scattered across the country. Volga Matushka, Mother Volga, the national symbol of Russia and the longest river in Europe, rises northwest of Moscow and flows all the way to the Caspian Sea. Rivers are extremely important in Russian life. They bring food, transportation and trade. The famous Nizhny Novgorod Trade Fair, for example, grew up on the confluence of 2 major rivers, the Volga and the Oka. Though Russia is surrounded by seas, the Arctic Ocean, the Black Sea, the Baltic Sea and the Pacific Ocean, there are huge internal territories that do not have access to sea.